Venezuela, the integral defense bodies of the states of La Guaira and Carabobo were activated by order of the President Nicolás Maduro as part of a civil-military system to guarantee peace and territorial security. And on Wednesday in Argentina, Fernando Monteo and Brenda Uriarte were convicted for the magnicide attempt against former President and leader of the Justicialist Party, Cristina Fernandez Kirchner, on September 1st, 2022. And despite the ceasefire talks that have been underway in Egypt for 3 days, Israel's Zionist forces continue their attacks on the Gaza Strip. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez provided an update on the ongoing Independence 200 exercises that guarantee peace and territorial security. Earlier in the day, Interior Justice and Peace Minister Diosdado Cabello led the activation of the integral defense bodies of the states of La Guaira and Carabobo. The Independence 200 plan was launched to ratify Venezuela's sovereignty in the face of provocations and threats by U.S. imperialism. The defense minister added that over 27 operations are underway to protect key infrastructures and communication lines among the different defense bodies. Since 2017, the popular power has been a key part of the national defense strategy. And Texas National Guard troops were positioned in Chicago in what constitutes another move on the Trump administration's controversial crackdown on immigration. Let's see more details from our correspondent Jorge Stoso.
Thank you. This morning, President Trump, in a post in his Truth Social network, said that he believes that the governor of Illinois and the mayor of the city of Chicago should be in jail for not guaranteeing the security of the members of ICE, that is the Immigration and Customs Service, la migra in Spanish. He failed to do that, the authorities local, and therefore definitely they should be taking care of. The government should be taking care. He has said, if they don't do it, we will do it. The authorities of Chicago and of Illinois, even the Attorney General, said that this is a declared war that has been initiated with the deployment of more than 300 members of the National Guard that has been sent from the state of Texas to the neighborhood, to the surroundings of Chicago. For the moment, they are doing training and other activities and could be already deployed throughout the day today. And even interesting, a turn that took place in another city that is living situations similar to the one of in Chicago, that is the city of Portland in Oregon, because one of a congresswoman, she suggested that people should not go and demonstrate in front of the premises of ICE because that gives the ICE and gives the government and gives the Attorney General all the ammunition to continue to create this sort of chaos that they say that they have to react to. That believes is that if we could stop, she said, that part of the presence of people on that areas, the whole thing should be absolutely diminished. And the same thing happened with the mayor of the city that is about 30 minutes away from Chicago, where the situation is also taking place because the premises of ICE, that most of the time the immigration fight against demonstration is about not in the city of Chicago, sino in a city a little far away. So the mayor of that small city said that she's putting sort of a curfew, limiting the times of the day that demonstration could take place in order to avoid that, especially in the nights, the clashes between ICE members and demonstrators could take place. We get back to you now.
And U.S. senators accuse Attorney General Pam Bondi of turning the Department of Justice into a tool for political persecution by the Trump administration. Senators questioned the U.S. Attorney General, who they accused of using the DOJ to attack Trump's alleged political enemies. The lawmakers asserted that Pam Bondi negatively transformed the institution and has left a stain on U.S. history. After taking office as Attorney General, Trump's former lawyer has been hardly criticized by the opposition for failing to maintain the independence of the Justice Department from the White House. And in the United States, former FBI Director James Comey has pleaded not guilty during his arraignment at a federal courthouse in Virginia. The indictment alleges that Comey made a false statement to the Senate Judiciary Committee on September 30th, 2020, by denying he had authorized an associate to serve as an anonymous source to the news media and that he obstructed a congressional proceeding. In this scenario, President Trump publicly urged Attorney General Pam Bondi to prosecute Comey and replace the prosecutor in the case with an inexperienced White House aide who rushed the charges. Lawyers for the former FBI director are seeking to dismiss the case, arguing that the federal prosecutor who filed the charges, Lindsey Halligan, was illegally appointed by Trump. The case has amplified concerns that the Justice Department is being used as a weapon to persecute Trump's political enemies. And on Wednesday, the Swedish Academy of Sciences awarded the 2025 Nobel Prize in Chemistry to the team that developed metal organic frameworks, a new molecular architecture with wide-ranging applications in science and industry. The team consists of Susumu Kitagawa from Kyoto University, Richard Robson from the University of Melbourne, and Omar Mjagi from the University of California. This recognition stems from the creation of porous molecular structures that can house and transport molecules, including gases and other chemical compounds. As a result, the scientific community has produced tens of thousands of materials that can store substances like water, carbon dioxide, and toxic gases. These materials can also catalyze chemical reactions and conduct electricity. And the political crisis in France has triggered country risk and alerted the markets and the European Union, while President Macron faces pressure to hold early elections. The political situation worsened after the resignation of Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu, leaving the government without a working majority amid growing fiscal pressure. In turn, economies that sustain institutional paralysis could undermine growth and complicate efforts to stabilize public finances. In addition, analysts pointed out that the political stalemate could paralyze reforms and keep deficits high, increasing market instability and non-compliance with European Union fiscal rules. And amid the ongoing political crisis, the French National Assembly declared inadmissible the motion to impeach President Emmanuel Macron presented by the France Unbowed. The initiative was signed by 104 members of parliament from party ecologists and communists after blaming President Macron for the political crisis the country is experiencing, which forced Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu to resign. And now we have a first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. I'm going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Wednesday in Argentina, Fernando Sabac Montiel and Brenda Uliarte were convicted for the magnicide attempt against former president and leader of the Justicialist Party, Cristina Fernandez Kirchner, on September 1st, 2022. Fernando Sabac Montiel was sentenced to 10 years in prison for attempted murder with 3 aggravating circumstances, including gender-based violence in its political form and the use of a firearm. Brenda Uliarte received an 8-year term for her participation in the assassination attempt. Sabac Montiel was also sentenced to an additional 4 years for possession of child abuse material, bringing his total sentence to 14 years. In this context, there has been criticism that the perpetrators of the assassination attempt have been convicted, but not the masterminds. And the Argentine government authorized the foreign ministry to initiate the extradition process of businessman Federico Fred Machado, accused of drug trafficking, money laundering, and other charges in the United States since 2021. Fred Machado was arrested at his home in Vietma in the province of Rio Negro. The approval of the extradition by the Supreme Court comes amidst a scandal linking the alleged drug trafficker to the leading candidate of La Libertad Avanza party for National Deputy for Buenos Aires, José Luis Espert. In this scenario, Espert resigned his candidacy on Monday. Critical voices have expressed doubts about the transparency of this action and see a political use that could divert attention from corruption scandals to strengthen the image of Liberty advances in the weeks leading up to the October 26 elections. And the indigenous, student, and social organizations of Ecuador once again rejected discriminatory and repressive treatment by President Daniel Noboa's government toward the legitimate struggle for their rights. At the close of the 16th day of the national strike and widespread mobilizations, the number of arbitrary detentions, threats, and state violence continues to escalate. Citizens gathered at the Casa del Pueblo Quitucara in Quito, the nation's capital, have held a peaceful sitting to denounce the disproportionate use of force. Likewise, in other provinces, activities are being organized to demand that the government pursue dialogue and release the detainees, reaffirming that they will not abandon their demands. And on Tuesday, the Ecuadorian Attorney General's office charged 17 military personnel with the alleged crime of the forced disappearance of 4 minors who were kidnapped, tortured, and murdered in Guayaquil in December 2024. The case of the 4 children from Las Malvinas, in reference to the neighborhood where the victims lived, shocked the country. During the legal proceedings, 16 members of the military have been charged as direct perpetrators of the crime and 1 colonel as an accomplice. At the hearing, the public prosecutor presented testimonies and several expert evidences which allow for these charges to be brought in a case that the Ecuadorian government first denied, then dismissed, and even criminalized the victims. And Cuba remembers the legacy of Ernesto Che Guevara on the day of the heroic guerrilla in honor of the revolutionary leader who fought for freedom and justice on all fronts. On this day, Cuban school children received a blue scarf, and with this gesture, a sea of scarves dressed the largest of the Antilles in blue. The children were identified as Moncadistas in their initial stage as members of the José Martí Pioneer Organization. The event was held in commemoration of the anniversary of the assassination of Che Guevara and as a sign of respect and historical continuity of a process that keeps this revolutionary man among its main icons and reference. In this context, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel posted the following on his X account. On this day of tribute to Che Guevara, one of his warnings returns with all the vitality that its relevance gives it. You cannot trust imperialism, not even a little bit, not at all. The peoples of Gaza, Venezuela, and Cuba know this well. Che lives. We have our second and final break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, they will be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. Despite the ceasefire talks that have been underway in Egypt for 3 days, Israel's Zionist forces continue their attacks on the Gaza Strip. On Wednesday, Israeli military forces have carried out an attack on Gaza City that destroyed residential buildings and reduced urban areas to rubble. According to the enclave's health ministry, in the last 24 hours, at least 10 bodies and 61 wounded have been transferred to hospitals due to attacks perpetrated across the Gaza Strip. In addition, in the same time period, 11 Palestinians more have been injured while attempting to receive humanitarian aid. The total number of aid seekers killed in these attacks stands at 2,613, with over 19,164 others wounded. Meanwhile, in the occupied Palestinian West Bank, clashes have broken out between Palestinian youth and Israeli forces, which have conducted raids, closing shops and roads and blocked the passage of citizens, preventing them from going home. In this context, human rights organizations reported Israeli colonists, settlers assaulted a Palestinian man on Wednesday near Kirbet al-Farisiyah in the northern Jordan Valley. 2 years since the start of the genocidal war on Gaza, the occupied West Bank has been witnessing one of the most repressive periods in decades, with an increase in Zionist military operations, settler violence, and mass arrests. And for the third consecutive day, negotiations are progressing in the Egyptian city of Sharm el-Sheikh between the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas and the Israeli regime to end the genocide in the Gaza Strip. Among the mediators present at these negotiations are the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Qatar, the Head of Intelligence of Turkey, Ibrahim Kalin, the Israeli Minister of Strategic Affairs, Ron Dermer, and other international mediators. Negotiators have high expectations and are making every effort to remove the obstacles to a ceasefire agreement, and optimism prevails among all. For its part, the Palestinian resistance movement remains positive that progress can be made and an agreement between the interested parties can be reached. And as part of these negotiations on Wednesday, the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas exchanged the list of prisoners to be released. 48 prisoners in total held by Palestinian militias and 20 who are presumed to be still alive, in exchange for about 250 Palestinians serving long sentences in Israel. Once the above point is clear, the Israeli army will partially withdraw from areas of the Palestinian enclave, and other issues will be addressed, such as the immediate delivery of humanitarian aid, the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, and the formation of a government that ruled the territory under international supervision. And the Israeli regime illegally intercepted on Wednesday vessels of the Freedom Flotilla and thousands Madeleines that carry supplies, medicines, and food to the people of Gaza. Netanyahu's naval forces raid represent a blatant violation of the agreements on international water established by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. On its X account, the Summit Flotilla warns of the encirclement by at least 8 Israeli ships and the detention of 2 of its boats, while condemning the airstrike perpetrated against the Conscience vessel, which has 93 journalists, doctors on board. According to the activist, the medical, food, and basic care supplies are worth more than $110,000. The Freedom Flotilla coalition aims to challenge the genocidal blockade of the Israeli Zionist regime and establish themselves as active defenders of the legitimate cause of the Palestinian people. And the Israeli regime intensified its drone attacks on the border town of Hula in southern Lebanon. An Israeli unmanned aerial vehicle launched 4 consecutive attacks on the city in the early hours of Tuesday morning. The offensive began with a sound cannon, but quickly escalated with the launch of a missile targeted specifically at a local cafe. The drone then returned to carry out 3 additional bombings. Although no fatalities were reported, the offensive caused significant material damage and spread panic among the residents of Hula. Local sources confirmed that the Lebanese resistance remains on alert, monitoring Israeli movements and responding to aggressions on the southern border. Russia reported 3 fatalities and 10 injuries after a Ukrainian missile attack on civilian infrastructure in the province of Belgorod. The attack took place on Wednesday morning in the town of Maslova Pristan, and according to the local governor Vyacheslav Gladkov, 7 of the victims of the attack have already been hospitalized. This attack comes after President Vladimir Putin publicly denounced Ukraine's attempts to attack peaceful targets on the territory of the Federation. The president stated that these attacks will be of no use and reiterated that the priority task is to guarantee the safety of citizens and the civil and strategic infrastructure of the country. At this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.